This is Real Learning with Real People. These conversations are with real people. They're unscripted and they're designed to pull tidbits of information from people who are grinding right now to get the most out of their lives. With minimum amounts of editing and maximum authenticity, we hope to provide lessons that anybody will find effective, relatable, and entertaining. We seek to have guests that provide learning that's based on their life experiences. Some are chosen because of their experience as high performers in sport, business, or education, and other guests have been chosen because they have meaningful lessons to teach, and I want to make sure they have the platform to share them with the world. The language in these videos is sometimes mature, as I'm always encouraging guests to just be themselves. This is all part of making sure that we do our best to give you content that is both authentic and effective, and that you truly feel like you can utilize the real learning and connect with these real people. This week I chat with talent development expert, business mentor, coach, teacher, methodologist, and creator Opher Brayer. I've taken some of this bio from his pages, but to capture it all, you're going to have to check him out to see his broad impact on so many different parts of the world. Opher's history is intertwined with the history of his native Israel. During his early years, he witnessed Holocaust refugees fighting for their survival against the enemies surrounding them. And following that, he helped grow the advanced generation of talents in the fields of art, science, and business. Some were involved later in cyber technology and security in the 8200 unit, and then they went on to grow the startup business environment in Israel. Since 1984, Opher has been researching, constructing, and applying unique methodologies which have demonstrated that people can develop multi-disciplinary talent and the innovator's mind, contrary to the popularly held concept that talent is natural and inborn. He has developed many novel models, such as his models of talent development, management strategies, and personal business relationships, and I strongly recommend you look into his work, as companies like Microsoft and HP have trusted him for years. In 2007, he initiated the Stages model, which brought more than 2,000 children from various socioeconomic groups and introduced them to the process of acquiring multidisciplinary talent as well as the innovator's mind, training the new generation for challenges in 2030, 2040, and beyond. He's now coaching many people using his coaching by measurement model, and his goal is to share his 40 years of knowledge for training in business and education with the younger generations and the teachers of the future. Get ready for this extremely rich conversation with Opher Brayer. Opher, Mr. O, how are you today?
It's a beautiful day today. I'm in Israel right now, and the sun is shining, and it's 27 degrees Celsius. So yep. I don't know how much Fahrenheit. It's not a cool day, but it's a cool day.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is that because I'm in Canada, I don't care what it is in Fahrenheit either. I want.
Oh yes, it sounds the same.
Yeah. And 27 sounds beautiful. And I've been trying to. You've already pushed me away from my goal for the next couple episodes of the show, which is that I always end up doing some preamble that has the weather in it, and it's usually somebody who's nowhere near where I am, but I've had a couple guests who also live in Calgary, but because the Calgary weather varies so much, if they live on the other side of Calgary, then they might actually have different weather than I have. But I'm genuinely interested in hearing what the weather's like in Israel, because I know very little about Israel in general. So it's awesome that it's already 27 degrees there.
It might be that there will be a missile attack now, and I will have to go to a safe way. And I will leave the camera open so you can see the missiles running out there and being bombing the town, the city. And then I'll come back and I will continue the same conversation. I've done it many times before.
Oh my God. I don't know how how serious or joking you are. I don't know.
Not a joke. It's not a joke. I remember I was talking to one of my partners in Silicon Valley, and we were talking, and I said to him, well, there's an alarm. I have to go to the safe room. And I took the camera and I put it on the window here. And he saw the missiles and he heard the sound, boom, and the boom, and again, a boom. And when I came back, I just went continuing about the conversation we have had, like nothing happened. And he was totally white.
Gosh.
He was like, Opher, are you safe? I said, yeah, what happened? But there was a missile and a bomb, and there was a sound. Oh yeah, that's usual. Don't worry about it. Let's continue.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
That's why, by the way, Israelis have a high sense of urgency. We must move fast all the time.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. It also explains why you might want to live in Canada.
Yes, on the lake, it's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like to get right into hearing a lot about and already your storytelling ability and or at least your experiences have spoken for themselves. But I want to go back to your childhood and your family and hear a little bit about them and what it was like growing up and what really built your framework for learning, growth, and life.
Okay, I'll tell you. Well, when I was very young, like let's say 3 years old, my father was a teacher, and I saw him being loved by students all the time. They came to our house, they wanted to see him. It was a school teacher, and I was jealous because he's my dad. So somehow my decision was I should become a teacher, and if I will become a teacher, people will love me. I did know at that time that some teachers are not being loved by anyone, although even being hated. But I thought, well, if I will become a teacher, people will love me. And what else do we want besides of love? Think about it. So people want money, but money without love is worth nothing. So I decided that I would become a teacher. So I took my puppets and I put them in a U shape, like in the room, and I was teaching them like my father. He was my model. I went to his classes. And then at 6 years old, they sent me to school. And came this little girl, 23 years old, teaching us, we were in the first grade. And I raised my hand and I said to her, I'm sorry, teacher, this is not the way to teach. Look, I had 3 years of experience. She just came out of university. I knew more than her. And besides, I had a great model, like my father was an admired teacher. And she said to me, okay, second hour of the day, first day in school. I'm sorry, but this is not the way to teach. He said, Mr. Brayer, let me teach. The third hour, I said it again, and I was angry at her. And she told me, shut up, stupid. Okay, so somebody who's working for the government, for the Board of Education, for the Education Department, told me that I'm stupid. And she told me to shut up. So I decided to shut up because I was stupid. And I believed in what she said. And I shut up and I never went to school again. I mean, I was signed to the school because it was illegal to be homeschooled. And my father, he understood me. He said that you're right. But let's do a deal. I don't want just to spend your time at home just playing games all day long. I will write to you, I will take care of the government stuff. You have to go to school once a week. It doesn't matter what grades you get. You can fail in all of them. But do one thing that I'm asking you to do. Every day, 10 o'clock in the morning, you go to the local library. Until 4 p.m., you're staying there. You can come for lunch and you have to go back. And I will teach you how to study. And that's what I did. I finished 17,000 books by the age of 18, starting at 6. If you calculate, it's about 3 books per day, but not reading them, studying them, which is not the same. Because when you study, you get insights and you implement them in your life. When you learn, you just memorize. So you can answer questions. So what was the way that my father taught me to study? He said, look, you take a subject, you take all the books on the shelf on that subject, and you just read that subject for 6 months. Don't buy different books on different subjects. If you want to take philosophy, whatever you want, okay? You take a book, you take the first chapter, you take the first paragraph, you take the first sentence, you read the sentence, you have a workbook, you write a question about that sentence. And you answer it with your own words. It might be related to it, or might be something different that you want to answer, but it came up from that sentence. Every sentence got a question, every question got an answer. What happens is that the first book takes like 3 months to finish. Hours, because for every sentence you have to put a question and an answer. It takes forever. But then you take another book on the same subject by another writer. Here it comes. In the second book, 10% of it, you don't need to read anymore. Why? Because you see, we are inspired by other writers all the time. So some of the things I've learned from the first book were on the second book already. So my eyes were able to scan it fast and move to something that I don't know and not read something that I already know from another book. So the second book took me 10% less, assuming it's the same size. Okay? On the third book, 20% of the book you don't need to read. And on the 10th book, you read only 10% of the book because you already know the stuff from other books. So if the first book will take you 60 hours, the last book, which usually will take to most people 10 hours, will take you only an hour. So the average in the end, it's quite nice. But then you know everything about that subject. And you know better than any other human because you didn't read it. You wrote questions, you were pondering, you were thinking about it, and you wrote different answers and different connections. And sometimes the answers came from other books. Okay, so why did they say so? Oh, maybe because of that reason. But that I read in another book. And my brain systemically connected everything into one big system in my head and was able to see this subject systemically. That's how I studied. So what I'm good at? Asking questions and answering them, but not being asked questions and answering them. It's not the same. Like if you go to a school system, you have to memorize, they ask you questions, you have to answer. They don't teach you in school how to question. And when it comes to research and development, which is mainly the world of today, in research, you have to ask the right questions. And you haven't studied how to ask questions, how would you know? You have not practiced it. I mean, you can ask stupid questions, fine, like any person can ask a question, but to ask deep questions. I'll give you one question. It's the first question that I will ask any person that I meet. Why do you do what you do?
Do you want me to answer?
I get a lot of stupid answers. You know who is describing them as stupid answers? The people by themselves who are answering it. I hear a doggy. I hear a doggy. Okay.
He's interrupted more than one interview this way. I'm sorry.
Not an interruption. It's a great sound of happiness, So, so questioning is very important if you want to work in the future world of research and development. You need to learn how to ask. And this is the first thing that my father taught me. And that's why I became such a great student of knowledge. And I know how to implement everything, and I have systems on how I implement everything. For everything, I have a system, by the way. It's not natural what I do. It's systems.
Well, before that I'm really interested in that because I've read about you and listened to you kind of speak about that in the past. And I'm also interested to know, this is a question I ask everybody, so it's not an organic question. It's one of two non-organic questions that I have in the entire show. And it's going back to mom and dad. If you were to describe each of them with one word, what would that word be? This is sometimes the hardest question for many people.
No, I know exactly what I can tell you.
Okay.
My father took care of my emotional, intellectual development. My mother of my emotional, physical development. Both of them were emotional. By the way, my father is 100 years old. He's still alive. My mother is 90. They're still alive. Highly focused people until today. And very happy people, by the way. But the concept is very simple. Emotionally, I got a lot of love, a lot. But my father took care of my development and my intellectual development. My mother more about taking care of my body, not being sick, all this part. It was a nice mix between them. My father taught me about courage, and my mother taught me about fear. So I'm balanced.
Can you So we talk with our company, we talk a lot about fear. We talk a lot about fear as both a barrier or a launch in terms of learning and growth, and that it's a choice that we make on whether or not it's one or the other. What is your relationship with fear?
I fear being stupid.
It's a great answer.
That's why I became so smart. That's why I became brilliant. I'm not saying it because I'm arrogant. I'm a brilliant person. I know it, and other people will tell you this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you call Tony Robbins now and say, what do you say about Mr. Brayer? He will tell you he's a brilliant man.
Yeah.
Fine. So you got Tony Robbins saying it, okay? Or many others say. It's not that I'm arrogant or something. I know that I'm brilliant, and others know that I'm brilliant. You see, if I thought that I'm brilliant and everybody thought that I'm stupid, there's something wrong. Or if everybody thought that I'm brilliant and I thought that I'm stupid, it's really wrong. But most people will agree about that. Okay? And it comes from the fear. And the fear was because I met stupid people in my life, and I was afraid of being like them. I was really afraid. I'm still afraid about it, of it.
And you connect that to at all, or have you ever connected that strongly to that initial conversation with your teacher?
Because I thought that I knew how to teach, and I knew that my father was a great teacher, it might be possible, I don't know because I don't remember, that I fear that she will make me become a stupid person because she was not smart enough.
Right. I would imagine that you have, actually, I already know the answer to this, but I would imagine that your understanding of Carl Jung or Carl Jung's, depending on how you're pronouncing it, his self-actualization work.
Yes.
And anybody with even a passing understanding of that really knows that you can't be self-actualized, that it's not an end point, but more of a journey. I've oftentimes frame the concept of mastery, or if somebody wants to call someone an expert, not that it's a term that I necessarily support, all under that same umbrella as the journey to self-actualization, or the journey of self-actualization, I should say, the journey that mastery is. For somebody like yourself who has a healthy level, I would say, of a healthy ego, you understand the concept of self-actualization, you understand even some of Maslow's stuff and your basic needs and what you need on a day-to-day basis is something that is in flux. And because of that, when somebody, in my opinion, has a solid, healthy ego, has a good grip of their journey of self-actualization and mastery, sometimes they're perceived as being quite arrogant or overconfident, and therefore dismissed. I'm sure you don't experience that so much these days, but did you ever experience that misappropriated kind of interpretation of your ego in the past?
I will tell it in a different way, if you don't mind. Some people, when they meet me first time, they see me as an arrogant person because I have a very high self-esteem in some areas. Only those who know me know that I'm a very humble person, but you need to know me. And why is that? Because when I state something that I'm sure about it, the way I'm saying it is, there's no other way to think. If I'm saying that by 2040, 1 billion people will lose their jobs, and 1 billion kids will not be ready for the future market of jobs, I know what I'm saying. Because I'm analyzing and I'm learning and I know what's happening. I know exactly what's happening. I'm spending a lot of money, time, and resources in order to understand the world today and how it will look. Now, when you say it in such, a strong position, saying the world will look like this, and you cannot argue with me about it. And if somebody wants to argue, he will lose because I have a lot of knowledge about it. But these people who see me the first time, they will tell you that I'm arrogant.
Yeah.
Why? Because when I know what I'm saying, I stand behind my statements. However, those who know me know that I'm a very, 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 very kind person, and people like me and love me. You know how many people say, "Opher, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." You know, men, women, it doesn't matter. Old, young, it doesn't matter. But they have to know you. But let me tell you about something self-actualization. For me, it's quite simple because I simplify everything.
Yeah.
I have a mission in life, and I will do everything to complete the mission. So everything that has to do with self-actualization has to do with the mission first, and whatever you do for the mission. For me. And if I want to save 1 billion kids, I don't know if I'll get to 1 billion. Maybe I'll get only like to 50 million. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I have a mission to complete, and everything is devoted for that mission. So all my self-actualization is taking all my skills and all my knowledge and everything I know about myself and my fears and my strengths and my weaknesses, everything is in there. But I know exactly who I am. And if I recognize new habits or new things around me, it's because I designed them and not recognize them. Because I'm saying, Opher, you want to get there, this is the wrong way. It takes you too long. Find the shortcut. What is the shortcut? You analyze it, you ask the questions, you find it, you practice it. That's it. So for me, if a person has a mission to complete, okay, and my mission is a global mission. It's not like my personal mission in life, to have 2 babies and 2 grandsons and be happy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know why I want to complete that mission. So all self-actualization is around what's happening inside that path, my mission. And now I can see myself from the outside, from the inside, and I can see how others see me. And I compare what people say about me, what I say about myself, and then I know who I am and what I do.
Mm. That's a really interesting. It's almost. For some reason, I'm locked into my different psychologists right now in my head, and so as you're talking, I'm thinking about a few of them. It's almost anti-Freudian, the way that you speak.
Yes.
Not that you are anti-Freudian, but what you're saying is almost it's so goal, or not goal, but like what do people want? What you know what you want and you chase it.
Why you do what you do? I know exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm doing. And I don't make mistakes. Don't take me wrong. But I'm learning from them all the time. I had a good friend, a very good friend. He died 3 years ago. And I met him only 7 years ago. And he got Alzheimer's and he died at 91 or 92 years old. And he was my friend in the last 4 years of his life. He was a therapist. He wrote 17 books about therapy. And one time, I told him, Nathaniel, can I go to therapy with you? And he says, no, you can't because we're friends. And then I said to him, Nathaniel, his name was Nathaniel Brandon. He's the world expert on self-esteem. And he said to me, Opher, but you can't go on therapy because we're friends. So how can we be friends if you don't want to help me? I asked him. So he said, okay, Opher, only 10 sessions. What he was able to do in one session, every therapist that I've had before in my life was not able to do in 1 year. You had a precise system to go into your self-esteem issues and restructure them in the brain in 20 minutes. And that's it. And in 20 minutes, there was a change of habit internally in your brain. Immediately. No questions asked. And then you came to the second session. 20 minutes. It's a logical conversation, a very smart conversation, a very fast conversation, very systematic one. Tick, 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 tick. Next. And you get out of the meeting and your brain changed. That's it. I've learned a lot from him. during my years of biggest friend. I'm using some of his models. I cannot do it like him, unfortunately. He was a brilliant person, Dr. Nathaniel Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, he was a life partner of a very amazing woman in the 60s, Ayn Rand. They were lovers. Okay, they never got married, but they were lovers for like 20 years until she died. I think until she died. And she was world master of objectivity. There's still the Ayn Rand Institute until today. A lot of people did not like her, and she had millions of followers. Ayn Rand, and he was her lover. He was the one of, if you ask me, one of the top 5 most brilliant people on earth.
That's amazing.
And I've learned a lot from him. Like, one of the things I've learned, how to be sensitive, highly sensitive, and non-vulnerable, which is impossible. If you are sensitive, you're vulnerable. If you're non-vulnerable, you're not sensitive.
Yeah.
Okay? And he was teaching me this. I'm a very sensitive man. And because I'm not vulnerable so much, I can continue with my mission. Because if I was vulnerable, the mission, was expired long ago. You have to have this mental toughness. For me, mental toughness, by the way, is being sensitive and non-vulnerable. This is the equation of mental toughness, which is not self-esteem. It's mental toughness. It's not about being tough. You will not let anyone push you from your mission, unless it's a brilliant idea. But the people with the bad concepts, about, you will never make it, you'll never make it, why do you need it, make some babies, no. This is my mission. And that's what I'm going to do. And I will fight my way to accomplish it. So everything in the end comes to the point. Can you be sensitive to the world and non-vulnerable to your mistakes, your failures, and bad people around you?
You would, and you would probably have, vulnerability is a buzzword these days. There are many people, especially in teaching in the education world, the term vulnerability is sometimes callously thrown around, and pushing vulnerability, which is a concept that I really don't believe in. The concept of really trying to force atmospheres of vulnerability, either in a classroom or in a team environment, that kind of thing. And I don't think that that's a healthy thing for anyone.
No.
But I would imagine that if you're telling people, I don't disagree with anything that you just said, that non-vulnerability is part of mental toughness. What's the pushback look like for that? Have you had any?
A lot. We need to teach our children to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm asking them one question: why? And they say, because it's important. Why is this important? To be more sensitive. So why they can be sensitive and non-vulnerable?
Right.
I'm getting them to the point because I'm asking why once, I'm asking why second time. They fall into the trap, and I'm showing them. Being sensitive is something totally different than vulnerability. Vulnerability is not the meaning of sensitivity. It's not the same. You can be a highly sensitive person, but you can overcome your failures. Look, if I told you, you know what? I failed in 80 projects in my life. Sounds awful. 80 projects, big projects, huge projects, I failed. That sounds bad, huh? But they're out of 300 projects, and the rest of them I succeeded. It's not a bad equation. You know why? Because I succeeded in the 220 large projects, and I failed in 80. How many people lead more than one project in their life? I succeeded in 222. Now, it depends how I tell the story. If I tell you I failed in 80 of them, I feel sorry for you, Mr. Brayer. But you see, you don't know that I succeeded very well with 220 of them. And most people don't have more than one project in their life.
True.
They're not serial. You see, so it depends, how you explain things, first of all, to yourself. I smile every morning. You can ask my wife. I get up in the morning when I smile. Maybe if I will have cancer or something, maybe I will not smile. I don't know. But as long as I'm quite healthy, I get up in the morning because I know it's going to be a wonderful day because I'm going to do so many things today. And I'm all focused. Not, because vulnerability means also that when it hits you, you will change the path. And that's why you need to be less vulnerable. Go with the path. Go with a mission. Of course, you can have different models to help you to define the right mission. Like I have a board of advisors. I have a board, highly influential people. Every 3 months, they sit together, all of them in one room, and tell me how I'm wrong, and tell me what to do in the next 3 months. And I'm doing this. I have a model for this. I'm a person of models, so I work with models all the time. So, but that's one of them. So I tell you why. Each one of them is as smart as I am, but the 6 of them together, much smarter than me. They're 600% more smarter than I am, even more when they are together. And I can tell you, twice in my life, I did not listen to my board. In those times, I failed big, lost millions of dollars because I didn't listen, because I was arrogant. When you have a board, you listen to your board.
So that's true arrogance, where you stop listening.
Yes.
And I think,
but it depends to whom. People you trust or people you don't trust, because some people will make you fail all the time because of their own fears, because their own false beliefs.
And so much smaller scale, because this company and I guess this project that I'm on right now, and this show itself is its own project. It's a structured data collection from people who are great teachers, whether they know it or not. So you happen to fall on the end of knowing it and have been recognized for it before. We have many people on the show who have no idea that they're great teachers. Yeah. One day I'm going to have my dad on, because he has no idea that he's one of the greatest teachers in the world. And he's not he works in a trade. But when you speak about working with your team or taking advice, when I started this project, the whole company, I started out of leaving a company that was paying me quite well, because I no longer trusted the people that ran the company, and it became something that I didn't think that the advice or that the insight that they were giving me was something that was going to guide me in towards success. But in hindsight and reflection of that, I realized that, especially for the CEO, there was little micro, I guess, letdowns along the way before the big one, where just this little piece of advice that ends up not working out for me, or this thing that was said to be true but isn't quite true, or isn't, and then all of a sudden there's a big one, and in the moment I was kind of like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. But then as I reflect back, I see all these smaller ones. So that really speaks to me, I guess, and the concept of who you're taking advice from, and when we take that advice and we say no to it, again, we might be perceived as arrogant, but I don't think that it's actually arrogance if it's not coming from somebody we trust.
Yes, but you need to trust a person. And how do you know whom to trust?
See, I think the term, we use this in coaching a lot, in sport coaching here in Canada. I can't remember if I mentioned you before, but I coach university basketball as well. And so I use the term body of work a lot. So I want to know, and I don't just mean that in terms of professional work or statistics on a basketball court or in any part of life. I mean it in terms of relationship. So,
Yeah.
so if you and I have a conversation today and we build whatever level of trust or whatever level of connection that you can build over Zoom and in a shorter conversation, and then the next time we speak, we have the same amount of time conversing, but you say many things that go against me or that go against what you said previously. So now it's split. It's 50-50. Your body of work, reflects that in my mind. I've accumulated this perceived body of work for you where there was a lot of trust and honesty and agreement in first conversation, and then a lot of dishonesty, lack of trust, and disagreement in the second conversation. And so this is your body of work. And when it comes to who I take that advice from, and when people ask me for advice on taking advice from people, I oftentimes speak like, just consider their body of work. What does it look like? And really it's like, to simplify it down really far, it's pro-con. But it's essentially just, I think it's body work. If you and I speak once a week for the next 4 weeks, and every time we have an insightful and agreeable and honest conversation,
yeah,
you're batting 1,000.
I think we can summarize it maybe into words. Measurement of promise and delivery. Let's say I promised you a nice conversation somehow, and the delivery went wrong. Would you trust me? I mean, I promised you A and you got B. If somebody is promising you, I will connect you to this guy easily, I know him. Yeah. And he never does it. He forgot about it. Would you trust him?
Less.
If the girl you met promised you beautiful life together and the delivery was awful, would you trust her? If she promised to love only you and you caught her with another man, would you trust her? Delivery was wrong. She promised you to be just you, just with you. That was the promise. I never look at another man in my life. Would you trust her? If the promise was that this is the best pizza in the world and the delivery was, it was a lousy pizza, would you trust that pizza place again? For me, to simplify my world, I look at promises and deliveries and I measure them. And if there is a gap, I'm starting to ask questions. And most of those questions has to do with, as I told you, I'm a question person. Yeah. The level of trust I have with that. And imagine you meet a person and he promises you one time, never delivers, or delivers the wrong thing, or does not deliver what he promised. And again, and again, and again. It's like the CEO. You thought that he's one person, but he never delivered what you thought. And it might be something he deceived you, or maybe you deceived yourself. And you still don't trust him.
Yep.
Okay, it doesn't matter if it's you or him. So I think if we sum everything into different simple concepts, promises versus deliveries, this sums the value of trust.
Yeah, and
by the way, I never thought about it before. It came out in our conversation.
I love that. See, so remember earlier when you asked why, you asked it rhetorically, but why somebody does what they do?
Yes.
I realized probably after the second or third version of the show, because I just started this, I've wanted to do something like this for years, and this time period just gave me the time and the means to do so. And I realized that the reason why I do this is because I love nothing more in this arena than when somebody's like, I've never thought about it like this, but now that we're talking, I hit this point. Like that's my, if I was really into drugs, that would be my drug. I'm really into coffee, so that's my coffee. That's my addiction.
Yes.
And I think that, to come back to the concept, when we talk about cohesion, which is where I work a lot, because we work in 3 arenas. We work in sport, we work in education, we work in business. We are just diving into the creative arena because I've become close with a professional storyteller, and he encouraged me that I was really missing the mark if my company only works in business, sport, and education, that I needed to really dive into the creative arena as well. So we're in the process of that. But in all 3 of those areas, cohesion, collaboration, and communication become things that we talk about a ton. Yeah. And because of that, trust is something that we talk about a ton. And now that, again, you've just simplified it in a way that I don't think I've ever thought about it before. I know I haven't thought about it before.
Neither did I.
True.
That's what makes the conversations, brilliant. Because when you trigger my brain, and my brain can find something, or I will trigger yours and it will find something. So it's a mutual creation. Mm-hmm. It's much enjoyable than just you interview me. Just interviewing me, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the creation part.
Yeah.
That is important here.
One, I love the idea of under-promising and over-delivering to a point. Yeah. because at some point you steal from yourself. Like if I tell you that I'm going to be the absolute worst conversationalist you ever had, we're probably never even going to have an interview. If I reach out to you and I say that you're really going to hate this, then I'm getting my own way. But I love that. I love the idea of it. I love it in teaching to a point. I love it in coaching to a point. I love it in business leadership. Like in all areas, I just think like, if you can find that sweet spot where you're setting a goal and setting a standard, because I believe strongly that standards are important in all those leadership kind of situations. If you can set a standard that sits in that area between where you're very confident things can go and where things can go,
yeah,
it's a great motivator. It's people don't like it. Maybe it's the wording, the semantics, I don't know, but I think it's a great motivator.
Let me add something. I was listening to you. One of the words you've said, that you love the concept of under-promising and over-delivering. Sometimes I think it's wrong. I'm not saying like over-promising and under-delivery. But what I'm saying, sometimes when you're over-promising, you go and work hard if you want to deliver it. You work harder than ever before to get to that point that you can get that promise to a person. So I don't think that, look, over-promising and over-delivery should be the same. Or promising and over-delivery. It must not be under, because it means that you're not going to try too much to do for him. If you do the minimum you promise, it's good enough. And if you do more, you're amazing. But I believe that promising and over-delivery is right, and under-promising is something that is wrong for you as a person who promises. Because I many times kind of over-promised something that I didn't know how to do. And the reason I became good at it is because I over-promised, and now I had to deliver it. You put yourself in a situation that you have to work hard to get to that point that you will promise. What you promised will be delivered. So just, under-promising is cool, but not all the time.
I like that.
I think that the most important part is to deliver. Mm-hmm. Whether you promise or under-promise, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Over-promising means that you cannot deliver at all. But promising is fine. You don't have to under-promise.
Gotcha. And I like that. That's a good shift for me. I like where that brings me a little bit more. It ties in a little bit more with some of my values around risk taking and leaping and that kind of thing. I did Seth Godin's Alt MBA a few years ago, and I felt throughout, and we spoke about this quite a bit in it, that I was the lone not business mind in the entire cohort that we had, because it's designed for a lot of people that are either highly involved in business or want to be highly involved in business. Maybe they have multiple startups, maybe they have multiple successful companies, all that kind of thing. And a lot of time throughout it, I was talking to them about this concept. We've put different words on it today than I was talking about then. Kind of like you said before, like we've kind of looked at it in a way I haven't before. But I talked all the time about how there's a concept, and I haven't been able to fully articulate it or figure it out, conceptualize it in a visual way or written way, of we need to be able to balance risk and promise. Yeah. And now that we're talking, I really feel like it's balancing risk, promise, and delivery.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? There's one place in the world, I would say in most countries, that there's over-promising and under-delivery every time, again and again. In politics. Think about politics. People want them to vote for you. They will over-promise and they will always under-deliver. Because what they promise is not possible. Mm. Look at people who people voted for him to become president or whatever.
Yep.
They always overpromise and always underdeliver.
Yep.
I would say 90% of them, or those that I know.
Yeah.
Interesting. And in politics, and we vote for them. We vote for the overpromising again and again, even though it's always underdelivered.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say, was it's because there's no accountability, but we are the accountability.
Yes.
And there's just not enough of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I try to, it's funny, I always say on here that I try to stay away from politics because and I honestly don't. I say I try, again, you talk about not delivering on promises multiple times on the show.
Don't say it we say it as a concept of governments. Don't say this government, that government, or whoever, we don't talk about a name.
Yeah.
But that's usually what governments do.
Yeah.
If you will read Ayn Rand, she talks about it.
I'm definitely going to. I'm gonna look them both up and do a deep dive into both of them, because all of that is right in my ballpark.
She says in the books, what is a country? What is a government? A government is the executives who are running a business of selling bad services to people. And if you don't buy, you go to jail. That's what's being called tax. You buy services of schools and roads and whatever you buy from the government. It's usually not the highest level. And you pay a lot of tax for this, basically. Mm-hmm. And if you don't pay, you go to jail. So it's the best business in the world. Imagine Amazon could have sent you to jail and under-deliver the promise. Yeah. Okay, and so this is it. This is Ayn Rand, and it was a beautiful statement by her saying, it will always be like that. They will give you third class, not first class services, the government, for the price of lucrative promising service.
Yeah.
Look at the school systems.
Ooh.
I mean, you pay so much tax. Okay, most people pay 20, 30, 40% tax, 50% tax. And what did they get? A lousy school for their kids?
Yeah.
And you pay. You must pay. You must. I mean, if not, you go to jail. So you must buy the lousy product. And if you don't buy this lousy product, you go to jail. That's Ayn Rand, by the way. It's not me.
That's awesome.
It's brilliant.
When I love the love that you give to the people that you love. That's not my best statement I've ever made, but I love the love you give to the people that you love. I think that's something that people, I find we have many people that have a really hard time doing that, especially you do it on a much different level than I do it, but we both work with businesses, and we both work in coaching, and I don't know how many, I guess I would, of my peers, I would call them peers. I don't know how many peers just don't, like they would sit there and they would say that and really try and make it their own, whether they care for the person they're talking about or not.
Yeah.
And that to me is how I know that you're not actually arrogant and that you are actually humble. That's one of my trust, I guess, levels or trust hurdles for someone is if you said that and you tried to say it as your own, and then I'm like, oh, I really like that, and I go look it up and it comes up as anybody else, well, that I lose that. So when you speak like that about somebody, it just changed. And I'm riffing, right? I have not thought about this previously. It takes the person I'm talking to another level when they hit that hurdle properly. Not that I'm putting it there, but do you have things like that where for you, when you're building trust, when you're I don't want to make relationships with other people sound so cold, but when you're evaluating interactions with someone, do you have things that sit like that for you that you've really conceptualized?
5 years ago, I wrote a book. It was never published. I never finished it. I finished the book. I never finished the editing and publishing. And it's about the art of meaningful relationship. You see, relationships are not so important. And people go to events and they meet people. I never go to events unless I'm on stage. I don't want to meet people. I want to meet the right people. So if you know whom you want to meet, why do you need to go to the event to meet him? Just write to him on LinkedIn and meet with him, have coffee together. And I think meaningful relationships are the most important part in our life. The most important one. If you have meaningful relationship, life will be nice. And if you don't have the relationship meaningful, very meaningful relationship, it will not. I was just finishing today my 7 core beliefs. They are on the internet. I shared them long ago, my 7 core beliefs. So there's people even used it and created like PowerPoints around it of my beliefs. But in the past 2 days, I was getting help from my daughter to write my 7 core beliefs. And one of the things there, is written here. Distribute value to the right people and you will get plenty back. And this is something people do not understand. When you meet a person, usually, you say, what's in it for me? Hey, I want to meet Bill Gates. Why? He's a billionaire. So what? Do you think he will give you 1 billion out of his money? No. Do you have anything to offer to him? And people say, me? To him? There's nothing I can offer Bill Gates. He has everything he needs. And this is where they're all mistaken. Why would Tony Robbins be my friend? Because there's something I can give.
Mm-hmm.
Am I successful and rich like him? No. And still, why is that? Because there's always something you can give, even to the richest, the more successful people on earth. But you have to know what they need that you have. And if you give it to them, you build a meaningful relationship. And it's the art of giving to givers. That's all. That's relationship. You need to learn how to give to those who are givers. I'm not saying like helping the poor. Helping the poor is you're not looking for them for anything back. I'm saying like business relationship, any other relationship. It's giving to givers. Big gift to people like you. They don't have to give you back, by the way. Let's assume I will give you something. Do I want something in return? No, it's business. So that we don't transfer one value to each other. But if I will ask you to help another friend of mine because he's in need and you can help, and you will say no, then you will be on my blacklist because I helped you in the past. And I'm helping you, I'm asking you to ask somebody else. Or even I tell you about that person and you don't offer to help. It's something that you know how to do, it's connections that you have, or whatever it is. So I do measure people, but their level of giving, not to me. They could be givers to others, nothing to me. But if I see a giver, I will choose him as a friend and I will start to give him endlessly. And he can be in a position that he will never transfer back to me anything. As long as he's a giver, it's fine.
Right, right.
I don't want to be a friend of Bill Gates because I want his money. I would love to be his friend because he's brilliant, because I think I can help him in many projects that he's doing. I think he can do the projects much better if he will listen to me, to my advice. But do I want something for it? No. I just want the relationship. But I'm going to ask him for $400 per hour? What's the deal? I mean, it's Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's a CEO of a company, fine. But, this is Bill Gates. You don't need his $400. And you don't want his $4 billion. You want to be around the person that is doing something good for the world and do it with him. It's just a name, Bill Gates, to be anywhere.
Yeah. That's my language right there. It's always nice to speak to somebody in as far away as Israel or anywhere else that's far from me, and it's like we're speaking the same language, and it's not English or anything else. It's just a language that that really, like my hair is standing up on my arms because that connects with me in that way. And why do so many people miss that?
Survival is all about what's in it for me. But that's on the lowest level of survival.
Maslow.
There's a big difference between survival and success. It's not the same. Surviving is not about success. Success is above survival. Most people are in a survival mode, and they would love to be friends of Bill Gates because maybe they will spend the money. If you go into the success level, which is above survival, like the Maslow kind of, let's say this.
Yeah.
First, be a giver. There's always something you can give. Always.
It's physics, really, what you're talking about. It's the
Yes.
energy can be transferred.
Yes.
It's not created or destroyed.
Yeah. And good energy create good energy, and bad energy create bad energy. Always. You can see I live in a country in a war zone.
Yeah.
Okay. People just want to fight all the time. Also on our side.
Yeah.
It's not me. But there are a lot of people here that would love, let's go and kill the Arabs. Yeah. And the Arabs say, let's go and kill the Jews.
Yeah.
What is the outcome of it? So people die. So what? Do you enjoy it? I mean, what's the reason? Why don't create prosperity, economic prosperity, love and care between all of them? Why not? Because they need to fight. For ego, for what? Land? That's not a good issue.
Yeah. I have a friend who's a history major. He was a history major. Now he's a teacher, and we spoke about the Israel-Palestine conflict probably 9 years ago. But I remember the conversation because our main takeaway from it was, can you imagine if they just decided to create together what they could do? And I know that's
utopia. It's not. It's not utopia.
Okay.
It's not utopia. It's possible.
And I see the possibility, just in the same way that we were speaking. I had a guest on the show the other day, and we were talking about the fact that money is such a human created thing that we sometimes forget that if national debt becomes a problem for 75% of the countries in the world, why would we not just get rid of the national debts? right? Like it's just
Same.
and she kind of said, yeah, well, that's just not practical. And I in that moment I kind of agreed with her, but then after I was like, actually, it's very practical. It literally just involves the right conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that in terms of Israel and Palestine, it's like, yeah, there's the history, the people that have come out and done great things out of both countries, in spite of the conditions with which that they had to do it under.
Yeah.
If only that kind of creation mindset, I guess, was there. I can only imagine what would come from that.
I can give you an advice. If you want to read about a war that lasted hundreds of years, okay, and somehow finished without armies, it's in Ireland. It was a war between the Catholic and the Protestants, hundreds of years, killing each other. Until 20 years ago, they were killing each other endlessly. And one day something happened, and there was no war again. And it became the number 2 area in the world for startups and technology and development. It's an ecosystem of research and development, one of the best in the world. And they've done it like in 15 years. What happened? One day we'll have time, I'll explain to you what happened, because I analyzed it. Okay. I studied systemic analysis in MIT, so I know how to analyze systems. And I will tell you the story of it. You will be shocked. It's not about governments. It's not about the English army. Nobody stopped it. It was force. There was no force to stop the war. When there's force, there's anti-force. Yeah. There was something different. They changed the country. Within 2 years, they had peace and prosperity. Unbelievable. Ireland is a beautiful story. And it's a war, okay, that's, for hundreds of years. And it's a strong war, okay, because it has to do with religion.
Yeah.
If there is religion, the war is really tough.
Yeah.
Like the Jews versus the Muslims.
Yeah.
But in Ireland, just like that. And it was not about agreements, not involvement of any armies, nothing. It's a beautiful story. You should learn it. You should study it, because it shows that it's possible.
This is one of those conversations that I really enjoy, because my reading list has grown, and that's I'm excited about it, partly because I just finished reading a terrible Faulkner book. And I've never read Faulkner before, and I picked a random title of his and decided to give it a shot, and I hated it. It took me almost a week, which is quite long for me to get through one. And the biggest thing I'm trying to decide now is which one I have to pick a better one next go around. But now the book list that I've gotten from today and the works that I've gotten from today are going to prevent me from having to pick up another Faulkner book.
That's what's beautiful about this world, is there's so many books. Sometimes they're wrong books, sometimes they're bad books, but there's so much beautiful knowledge out there.
Yeah,
so much.
My most disturbing book that I've ever read still, and I've read a lot of books that are designed to be disturbing. I love Stephen King. I think his books are his ability to create characters and imagery is. I've never watched a movie version of his books and appreciated it very much, because he creates the ability for me to create such a clear image in my head that when I watch the movie, I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yes.
And I'm always disappointed by how it ends up being conceptualized. But I Fahrenheit 451 is still one of the most disturbing books ever to me. Because of what you're saying. Like even in times like now, it's like my first reaction was, well, I'm going to read more. I like that. It's simple. Everybody's like, oh, what are we going to do? It's like, well, I'm going to read more. I know. I don't even know how to think about it. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, though.
What time is it? Oh, I need to go to see my mother and my father.
That's
I promised them.
Well,
I prepared for them something nice to eat. I'm a very good chef. I'm not a chef, but I love cooking. So I prepared something nice, and it's like 20 minutes drive, so I'll bring them something really nice to eat.
Well, I definitely have to let you do that because they're, as you said, they're both at least 3 times older than I am. So I need to make sure I do right by them.
He's 100.
That's incredible.
All his friends died long ago.
Mm-hmm.
All his friends. Nobody survived. And this guy went through the Holocaust. Lost all his family in the Holocaust.
It's interesting because that's as incomprehensible. You just said 2 things that are as incomprehensible to me as death itself, and that is 1, living through or experiencing the Holocaust, and 2, outliving so many people you know. Those are 2 things that I don't have the experience in my life to connect with that, and I don't know that you can.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm 63, so I lost friends, especially in Israel, when you live in a war environment. So you lose people, going to fight, never come back.
Yeah. That's great. I guess I need to be grateful for that, but I'm also incredibly intrigued, if that's not a disrespectful thing to say.
Yeah, sure. I understand it.
I ask everybody a couple questions just to wrap it up every time, and I'm really trying to stick to just these questions and not the 20 some odd that I have written here that I'll have to ask you another time. The first is for people who don't, I'm going to have a lot of people that I share this with who don't work or operate in the same circles that I do. So they're not going to know your name per se. So for people that don't necessarily know you yet, or maybe know your work, but don't exactly know you, where would they go to follow you or to keep up with the things that you're producing? Is your website the best place, or is there somebody else or somewhere else?
I have a couple of websites and a couple of blogs, but I think that one of my main projects today is the project for the children of the world. And if they want to learn about that project a little bit, they go to stages.global. www.stages.global.
I know a bit about that. Can you quickly just touch on exactly what the mission of that is?
Very simple. 90% of the jobs that you see today, will be erased in the next 20 years. And the jobs that we will have in 20 years would be just for smart people, highly developed, because all the rest can be done by robots and AI. Mm-hmm. And we have to prepare the brain for this. Are we preparing the brain? We create brilliant kids. This is what we do. Yeah. We do it online. We have activity centers in the United States. We're in India, we're in Europe, inside schools, outside schools, online, homeschooling. We have a lot of services. And it's a mission. And to take care of people to be really with great abilities. Most of the jobs of the future will be in research and development. We need to prepare the brain for this. And teaching coding is not enough. You can teach them coding. It's nothing.
Yeah.
You have to have the structure in the brain to understand coding or to understand things. And the other project that we have is being called coachingbymeasurement.com. And this is the coaching system we created for employees in companies and not for executives. It's a very low price. We are creating jobs for people to work as coaches for us. People who lost their jobs at 45 years old and they would never be able to get their job back. Mm-hmm. With a lot of experience. And because we have that experience, we have the methodology combined with their experience and some technology that we are going to build now. We started to work on the technology that will enable the coaches to work with the AI together and to coach the person in a much brighter way. and to lower the price and lower the price and lower the price. So every employee can be coached every day for less than $20 per session. So we built this system, okay, of coachingbymeasurement.com. It's that's it. I mean, these are the main two projects. I mean, I have more projects that I'm running. Two of them in Toronto, which is kind of technology startups and some other things. But I think these are mission-wise. These are the basic two targets. So if they want to know a little bit about it, they can go there and read, a couple of the articles, posts, whatever.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned both those, because those are two of the things that I've followed you for, I don't know how long, but again, like I said, I think we run in similar, we don't run in similar literal circles, but we run in similar interest circles. And so
Yes.
I followed your stuff, and I've seen a lot. And these are two projects that I guess you would say that I went from being a follower or a fan or someone who studies your work to someone who was excited about something you were doing, just because I thought it was so, like, it's every time I hear about it or looked at it, I was like, this is unreal. It's I use these terms periodically on the show to describe stuff, and usually I try to think of something that sounds a lot more intellectual, but those two projects to me are just so badass that and I like, it's hard for me to put words to it. So I really hope that people, when they hear about them and they feel somewhat the same way that I do about them, and they go check them out. And in terms of what you said,
one of the things we are doing now, we are working on a project that when companies hire us for more than 1,000 employees to coach them daily with our system, and we donate on their behalf to any schools they decide. So for every 1,000 employees that will be coached for a year, we donate money for 2,000 kids to be coached in our system, in their school system. So the school system cannot say we don't have a budget. So we donate it basically, but the donation is kind of the donation of the company. So the company can say to the school, we donated it. And so that's how we can grow faster to get to 1 billion kids and 1 billion adults.
Yeah. Awesome.
So we're merging the two concepts now. Yeah. It's not yet there, but I've offered it to one company. Let's see if it works, and then we'll see if it's possible.
Yeah, yeah. And the last question that I've noticed that this sometimes is challenging for people, depending on how many views they have in and around it, is if you were to articulate in a phrase or two your best advice on learning and growing, what would that be?
Systemize. The world is too complex. There's so many things and not much time. The more you can systemize things in yourself, not saying like to systemize a technology or something. Mm-hmm. Technology can beat us in many ways because it's systemized.
Yeah.
There are other things we need to systemize inside ourselves. So it will create natural habits in the end. Okay. And, if you go to my, I always forget the sentence. If you go to my emails, there's a little statement there. When I compose the email.
Yep.
And there's a statement there. What do you do, Opher? I was asked. I was really asked, and then I put it on my email on the signature. What do you do, Opher? I was asked.
Yeah.
And I said, I lead people to connect intelligence to self-discipline. I said.
That's, yeah.
It's just because somebody asked me once, what are you doing? So I say, this is the sentence I've said. If you have intelligence, it's not enough. Self-discipline by itself is also not enough. If you connect both of them, you win.
I love that. I love how you don't use a lot of acronyms or a lot of metaphor. It's just super simple and it's so clean, and I absolutely love that. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. And I guess the last piece, I'll give you the last word, but
I mean, you're the king. How can I say no?
Okay, that's going to go down in if I had a diary, I'd be writing that Opher just told me that I'm the king, because I'm going to clip that, take it out of context, and use it 3,000 times. I'll give you the last word, but I'll connect some of the things you talked about to my last statement, which is that I hope we can be friends. And if there's ever anything that I can give to you, or give to the work you're working on, I would love to be involved in anything in any way, or just be able to be there to help make it go. So if the engine or the pump ever needs a little bit of priming from somebody from Calgary, Canada, then make sure you think of me.
Don't worry, I already have the ideas. You will hear from me.
Well, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for being here. It's honestly been my pleasure.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to share. And it was a nice conversation. I've learned a lot from it. So I got some new concepts. It's a win-win situation for all of us, listeners, for both of us.
Totally. Well, thank you. Be safe on your drive to cook dinner, and let's talk again soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Bye-bye.
Make sure you subscribe wherever you get podcasts or to this YouTube channel to hear our weekly episodes.